From the Retul Studio in Boulder, Colorado, on the Rivet TV, presented by Core Power. Got a great show lined up for you today. Special guests, Dr. Allen Lim Biju Thomas. We're also going to talk about a new brew from the good folks at Boulder Beer, made specifically for Cyclocross Nationals. Our guest today, Dr. Allen Lim Biju Thomas. Welcome to the show.
Welcome, George.
Thank you. You've got a real special dynamic going here. You're great friends. You're also business partners. How did you meet?
Jeez, I don't know. We were looking for, I was trying to go to White Castle.
Yes. And I needed an Asian guy to drive the car to get to White Castle.
That's right. And bam!
Next thing you know, we're at White Castles. We've been friends for a few years, and as far as business goes, we're both just a small part of the larger picture. We've got a handful of other people who are not presently here, who actually run the business, make it all happen. That's probably how we can stay friends, because I'm just a small portion of the business. But we met when Alan was back in the Garmin days, working as sports sciences director at Garmin cycling team. And I've been friends with JV, who started and runs the team. And we had a little dinner party at JV's house where Alan and I got to meet and hang out. Turns out we both love to eat. So that's really all we needed. We were off and running immediately thereafter.
Yeah, I think that when you look at our own history, even though I grew up in Los Angeles and Biju grew up in Denver, our stories are actually so similar, and we have so much in common in terms of immigrating to the United States, falling in love with cycling, growing up with a really strong food culture in our families, and both ending up here in Colorado.
And Alan is the one who speaks English.
Yeah, and we both speak really great English, which actually Biju and I have talked
Better
about.
than I do.
No, this is important.
Yeah, this is really important because I think that we live in a day and age where everyone thinks that they're entitled or special or dream big, yada yada yada. And while that's all really important, there's a certain amount of kind of work ethic that has to come with it. And I think that I don't know if Biju and I, either of us, grew up thinking that we were all at all special. I mean, we had, I think, pretty intense parents. I had the typical Asian upbringing in terms of expectations, etc. But one of the things that my parents would always tell me when things were tough, that would kind of make me feel that everything was going to be okay, is they would say, "Hey, look, it's going to be all okay. You speak better English than us." And for me, that's always been kind of my secret weapon. When things have been hard or I've been, struggling, through whatever I'm struggling through, I always think to myself, like, it's going to be okay. I speak English. Like, I can figure this out, And I think that Biju had really the same experience. I mean, you came into this country and you were probably the only kid in the family who spoke English, right?
Yeah, I was 10 years old. My whole family's here. We moved to Denver, and anytime we went to the grocery store, to a market, somebody had to answer the phone. I was the one on point, because nobody else spoke English enough. And now if you meet my family, nobody has a trace of an accent. But when we were kids, that was like it. If you could speak English, imagine going to another country, no matter how smart or what all your credentials are, if you don't speak the language, you're screwed. Yeah. So if whoever speaks the language is the one able to open all the doors and be at the front of all the activity.
Yeah, so that's what Biju and I share in common. We both speak English.
That's really all we have.
That's our bridge language, because yes. I can't speak his native tongue. Yeah.
Can we go through your books just a little bit?
Yes.
Since The Feed Zone was the first one I got,
Feed Zone, yeah.
Let's go ahead and start with that one.
There you are, Alan. What do you think about The Feed Zone?
The Feed Zone was kind of, in my mind, a fantasy. It was this kind of fantasy project from the perspective that I was sick and tired of telling all of these athletes how to prepare meals. And I had this kind of vision of, instead of having these long discussions with these riders about metabolic pathways and nutrition and all this stuff, just to cut to the chase and say, hey, look, page 130, make the chicken tacos tonight. Right? That would have, and that was kind of what I was striving for. I was this constant hassle of trying to reduplicate this effort with respect to nutrition, and it was an important effort because it's so critical. When you think about the process of being an athlete, it's really a three-legged stool. It's your sleep and recovery, it's your nutrition, your hydration, it's your training. And if any one of those legs, you know, breaks, you're basically done. And so the feed zone was ultimately our take of, you know, a day in the life of being a pro athlete, pro cyclist, you know, given our background, and how do you actually practically execute all of this nutrition.
I think one of the things that scares people away from cooking is it can be intimidating, and you think it takes a long time. I've got one of the Top Chef cookbooks, and I look through there and it's like, this looks delicious, but there's no way.
Yeah.
These are delicious and they're simple and quick.
Yeah, and that was our whole intent from the beginning, was there has to be a picture on every page with the recipe, because I want people to see the picture to be inspired and be like, oh, that looks beautiful. Oh, and look, it's only got 4 ingredients. I can make that. Yeah. And you know, for me, that comes from years and years of working in restaurants and doing these huge, you know, events where I'm feeding 100 to 500 to 600 people at a time. So you, as a cook, you learn how to be more efficient, and only, you know, there's no time for wasted movements or space. You got to just focus. And then to be able to take that message and to share it with the athletes and my friends, it was really cool, because all these athletes that I've known and all the riders, they've all got coaches and nutritionists and dietitians and all these meal plans and calorie counts, but none of them know what to do when they get home with all that information. Yeah. So when we started thinking about the book, the idea was that everybody's already got their science in the back of their head. We just need to give them practical tools. So let's not burden them with, you know, even more, you know, theory and science. Let's just inspire them to go home and cook their own food.
Yeah, and that was, I think, a great part of the partnership, is that we could think of the science and all of the, you know, kind of guts and parts of this machine, and then actually put it together in a whole form and say, here it is, you know, eat this apple.
Yeah.
Right? Rather than talk about, you know, the innumerable phytochemicals in an apple, right? It's just like, it's an apple.
And then put a picture in there.
Yeah, of the apple.
Now, you were talking about how important food at the end of exercise is. I was privileged enough to be with you guys at the Tour of California, and it was just amazing to see the riders who came over to your tent, and you're making the Tor Hushoff burger. I mean, these guys have food named after them. Jens Voigt comes walking up. I was so impressed with him, just to see him mix with the crowd out there and be so friendly with everyone. But they came over for your food. And after one of the stages, you actually had burritos prepared for the riders.
It's cool because, you know, food is, and sitting down to eat are one of the very few times these guys get to interact with each other, interact with anybody else, because otherwise they're on a bike or they're sleeping or they're traveling. And, you know, what we've been able to do is kind of open it up a little bit, and especially in moments where we can set up outside on, in particular on the TT days. The riders all come to us. Their fans get to see them. They get to hang out, and everybody's relaxed and happy, and it's really kind of cool to see that whole other side of these pro athletes.
Yeah, and it's central to morale. It's central to just who we are as people. Sitting around at a dinner table together opens up so much more than just the meal in and of itself. And so I think that while we always thought about it in terms of sports science and working with elite athletes, the reality was that we were using food as a mechanism to make these guys happier. And we knew that happy athletes ended up having more success, right? And we wanted to make ourselves happy, you know? There's nothing like sitting around a great meal, especially when you've been days on the road and you're tired and you're working your butt off, you know? It's a key component.
Craft beer and microbreweries are a big part of what makes Boulder, Colorado unique. The Boulder Beer Company recently released a new brew celebrating the 2014 Cyclocross National Championships that are coming to town. Welcome, the Heckler.
The idea really sprung up from the fact that the Nationals are coming here to Boulder for cyclocross, and it was an opportunity that we're only going to get one shot at the Nationals, at least in the next 3 years anyway. We came up with the concept, beer and cyclocross go together great, so we thought of Belgian beer, Belgian Tripel, big 8%, it's nice, spicy, fruity aromas, so beer, cyclocross, Boulder beer, what could be better?
I think the idea was that we're paying tribute to where cyclocross came from. We figured a Belgian style beer being a Tripel would be a nice strong beer for wintertime, for the temperature it might be here in Boulder in the middle of January, and then just pay homage to the Belgian history of, Belgium's got a great history of brewing and a great history of cyclocross.
It's a beer that you kind of want to sip, not a beer that you're just going to slam. But a Belgian Tripel it's a strong golden ale. We use a Belgian yeast, which gives it a kind of a spicy, fruity aroma. You might pick up a little bit of bananas in terms of the flavor. It's a recipe that our brewers had worked on for the past year. So we're extremely happy about the way the beer, the finished product turned out. It's fantastic.
Well, it's exciting because we are packaging it today, and it's our first day doing 16-ounce cans, which is new for us, and it's something we've been talking about for the last year. So when you see it finally get to this point where you can taste the finished product in the finished package, that's definitely an exciting time.
The name, the Heckler, comes from kind of that very passionate cyclocross fan that is out there yelling, screaming, cheering, and more often than not, heckling.
Come on, GoPro guy, you got to represent next lap. Right that.
I think the beer will speak for itself. It's a fantastic beer, great flavor, great aroma, and I think people will definitely take to it very, very easily. Hopefully it helps market the fact that the Cyclocross Championships are here.
We really couldn't be happier about the graphics, happier about the beer, and the fact that nationals are finally coming to Boulder, which is it's long overdue.
Back at the Retul Studio in Boulder, Colorado, I'm your host, George Thomas, on the Rivet TV, presented by Core Power. Heckler beer sounds amazing, but for that athlete in your life who's unable to have any wheat products, we do have a treat here from New Planet, gluten-free beer.
Cheers, buddy.
All right, let's try not to burp too much.
That is a Belgian ale, gluten-free. First thing in the morning, it's delicious.
It's not morning.
Right, but
What?
it's
It's evening.
right
I'm
now,
sorry.
so.
Evening. First thing in the evening, delicious.
Well, let's get back to our discussion. Why the collaboration on a second book?
Because we weren't done with the first book.
See? We had more to share.
And you didn't want one that was like double the thickness.
Yeah. I mean,
We had more pictures to share. The second book is fantastic because we had so many questions after the first one about more specific things. Al got a chance to go into depth on some really awesome science and break it down into really easily digestible bits of information.
Ooh.
Huh?
Yeah.
And we made a bunch of food that you can pack up, wrap, and take with you.
Yeah, the most novel part about the feed zone was the portable sections, this idea that you could actually make your own ride food. And so we decided to do a whole book on just that one topic. I think that a lot of us became sick of eating, prepackaged foods that were really kind of dry, crusty, and hard on the gut. And, a big part of what we had changed in the Peloton was cooking a lot of real food the morning of these bike races. So that's what the Feed Zone Portables was all about.
On that, really my ride staples now become Skratch and Allen Lim rice bars.
Look at you.
Yeah.
And I had chicken
But
fried rice last night.
I will say
I'm serious.
that it's all about context, right? That these are calorically dense items that are intended for people who are physically active or who are on the go. And if you're not, then don't make this stuff. Don't eat this stuff. You're better off just having a salad. And I think that it's really important to keep all this stuff in context.
Yep.
Because ultimately we do great on a varied diet when we are really physically active, right? And that's ultimately what we want to promote more than anything. You got to earn your food.
Oh.
You kind of have to earn your Skratch too.
You have to earn your Skratch as well. It's all about context as well. We started making Skratch for the same reasons why we wrote these cookbooks. It was that a lot of the products available on the market were making the athletes we worked with sick. They were complaining of upset stomach and flavor fatigue. They were always diluting their sports drinks because they were too strong, but they were also diluting out the electrolytes. So we started making it ourselves, literally from scratch. That's where this name comes from, if people don't know. But again, it's about context. You know, most people don't realize that they have a pretty decent water reserve in their bodies, and they have a pretty decent sodium reserve in their bodies, and they have, you know, fat stores and glycogen stores, and you can go out and exercise for 2 hours and probably not drink anything or eat anything and be perfectly fine, right? So if you are sitting on the couch, if you are playing video games, no Skratch for you. And that's something that I think people are surprised to hear from us, is that we endorse our product within the context of intense physical activity that induces a lot of heavy sweating.
It's funny though that no one's making an exercise drink for video gamers. You know, like
Isn't that
there's a whole range
called
of
beer, Beej.
There's a whole range of products you could be making for the video gamer.
talking about the holidays? Want to get into some great presents that you can give the endurance athlete in your life, and I've got to say, right here, some of the best gifts you could do. These have been very popular prizes at events that I've put on. Where can people get your books? Where can they get Skratch?
The books and drink mix are available all over the country, most likely at your favorite local bike shops, your local bookstores, and absolutely everything is also available directly from us at skratchlabs.com.
That's right. And if you order directly from us, it's very likely that we will draw something really awesome on your
There will be
box for you.
fantastic box art.
They're collectibles now.
And stocking stuffer, you can actually get single serving sizes.
You can.
Yeah. Those are awesome.
Exactly.
Stocking stuffers.
Exactly.
Yeah. And emergency packs. So when you go drinking, you can have them in your pocket.
Yeah.
So you can just, you know.
But not that Skratch is actually great for hangovers. Skratch is great for hydration, and hydration is great for hangovers.
Good point.
Bada bing, bada boom.
With Cyclocross Nationals taking place in Boulder, Colorado this year, we leave you with some sights and sounds of cross racing that's taken place here over the years.